Very happy that you're here with us. We really appreciate for you being here with us. I just mentioned that this is the beginning of our two nights and 2 days gathering. This evening, tomorrow all day down at Baha'i Institute in Burnt Water. Everything is will be prepared for you down there. We'll have breakfast in the morning at 7:30. Lunch at noon, and then in the evening we'll have dinner. So all those things will be prepared for all of us. When there is a very important meeting or gathering, like in our traditional ceremonies, we start a meeting, the gathering with a prayer. We invite the holy peoples and the Great Spirit, the Creator God, and all the holy peoples that have given us the teachings in the past. We invite them to concourse on high. The concourse on high, we call it. Those are the people that have passed on who were very brilliant here that helped us. They were taken from us to continue their work in the next world.
Aloha. I say welcome to again here at Pine Springs. You Baha'is from all over the country put Pine Spring on the map. And to this day, Pine Spring, when you hear Pine Springs, it touches your heart wherever you go. It's a good name, Pine Springs. We need to come together like this more often and pray together, eat together, and spend time together, get to know one another.
Yat she'enana b'foget yeneshya, Baha'i Nishlin. Toyiglini Nishla Techini Bashis Chain Bit Ahni Dashache Belagana Dashanella. I'm originally from Likajagai, and I currently reside here in Pine Springs at Sohodzi, the home of Della. Yes, and our neighbors down here. Maybe I just want to share just a little bit about the process of preparing and the youth that came together to form this beautiful shade house and pick up the rocks. We even had two little ones, two two-year-olds, Tristan and Alcanzo. They were picking up rocks and throwing them in the back of Chester's truck. And so that was their little contribution, all the way up to the 20-year-olds. Yeah, two little guys. A lot of the youth have been playing softball over here, who are a main part of this shade house, as well as all the physical work that needed to take place at the Nabi campus. This is the Carino Junior Youth Group. There's a core about 8 of them, and then 4 young ladies, 3 of whom are here tonight, and we want to share a prayer that we have memorized by the Bob.
Shajay Yanazini. Oh God, my beloved, my heart's desire.
And our little group, we love to dance and shuffle. We meet every Wednesday, and we're currently in which book in the Junior Youth Empowerment Program? What book are we doing?
Glimmerings of Hope.
And all of these young ladies hope to become the animators of the next junior youth group. And also they work with some of the children's classes. And we'll have more tomorrow, more to share. And we'll have pictures up of other junior youth who aren't able to make it. There are 40 junior youth along I-40 who are part of the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program. And they're prepared to do meaningful service this weekend. So these are your handmaidens. If you need anything, just let them know.
This gathering is to grow our faith, and that helps our spiritual aspect of ourselves. Our soul, to say you're a Baha'i, you just added a challenge to your life. And that challenge is that we have to grow our faith every day. Always be thinking about it. Saying your prayers, running to the east, recognizing your elders, honoring people, love, sharing your faith. Those are all aspects of growing our faith. And this can be the theme. Do you think that's acceptable? The theme of this weekend is to grow our faith. So 50 years from now, we'll look back and we'll say, how did we do, right? And that brings me to introduce the people who are serving at Nabi. These guys are really dedicated their lives to helping all of us, to grow our faith. Charlotte, if you can stand up. Anybody who pioneered out here. Each of these institutions sent a delegate, and the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States sent a delegate, and so we're going to honor her, and I'll ask her to speak.
So the National Spiritual Assembly has sent me here for this weekend to represent them and to bring its love and its greetings and its gratitude to all of you for the contributions you have made to strengthening the faith of the Baha'i community here and, of course, all over the world. That council fire 50 years ago not only lit a fire here, but lit a fire all over the United States and changed the Baha'i community as we know it forever. And Franklin was the first member of any American Indian tribe to serve on the National Spiritual Assembly. And right after he left, his brother, Chester, was the next American Indian to serve on the National Spiritual Assembly. And in fact, since then, the National Spiritual Assembly is only composed of 9 people who are elected without any electioneering, with no nomination, with no discussion of names. So since Franklin was first elected, every year since then, there has always been an American Indian serving on the National Spiritual Assembly.
Can you hold something that Erica and I did together in Chester? It was the Spirit Run, and I think I'm going to share a song and a prayer that we shared across the country when I was 15 years old. Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa. Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa. Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa. Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa. Oh God, my beloved, my heart's desire. Oh God, my beloved, my heart's desire. Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula Pa. Ya Bahaula Pa, Ya Bahaula
Agency Commemoration National Did you ever just do the Slatina Hada, Tazen, Abraham, didn't know ye, Edicona. Abenasti, the overseeing Hilton Shadow, that really see Adi has later. I used to be for long way there. Oh, you has there. I have been asked to give the story that has taken place 50 years ago over at Pine Springs. And that is a long time ago. 50 years. I was there. How many of you were there? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I was almost there.
Is that all? Where were you? The rest of you? It was in 1962 that I became a Baha'i, in the spring of 1962. And at that same week, I heard that Franklin, my brother, had also become a Baha'i. And after that, we came together. We were so excited because this is a new faith, a new religion. And what I've learned is the same thing that our ancestors lived by, the same teachings. And we said, let us tell our own people at Pine Springs, where we were raised, and see what they think, how they feel about it. So we came together with Amos Gibson and Jim Stone, who was a pioneer too, and some others. And the two ladies that we have first met came to us too. Their names were Charlotte Nelson and Norma Gimlin. A plan was made for the gathering, and at that time, Amos Gibson was, they had put him on the National Spiritual Assembly, and he delivered that message over there, and somehow the message went out into all the regions in the United States. So when the date came for our meeting at Pine Springs, people started coming. All kinds of peoples, the black people, the white people, the yellow people, the brown people, the red people, other tribes from other nations. When the meeting started, there were close to 1,000 people there. It was kind of scary to see that many people at Pine Springs. It was so exciting at the same time. It's unbelievable to see that many people from all races of the world. And then we knew that now, by that time, that it's not us, it's the Spirit, Christ, Baha'u'llah, Moses, the holy peoples of the world were there with us. The Krishna, the Buddha, all the holy peoples were there because this is what they wanted, to bring the humanity together in peace and love and respect. That was, looking back, this is what I saw. There were many, many prayers in different languages, and many people speaking, talking from different races, the black races, all the races. And of course our local Navajo people too. At that time we had local leaders who were medicine man. Mark Burnside was one of our elderly leaders. Sam Yazzie, Husky Wilson, John Hale. We were all our elders that were there, and they heard the message. And during that whole process, my brother Franklin was the MC every day and every night. And I translated everything that was said back and forth between the Navajo language and the English language, back and forth, all day long. We try to do that sometime. There were so many different tribes that came also. I remember that a group of Taos Pueblo from Taos, New Mexico. Somehow there was one elderly Baha'i there. He brought all his friends. There were the Chippewas, the Cherokees, and so many others. I don't remember all of them. Chinese people. There was a special guest from Africa who was here. There was a special person, a young man who came all the way from Samoa, who gave a talk, and he gave a beautiful fire dance that they have over there, his culture. Our Navajo elders who spoke, they said, this is the truth, what we hear, what we are hearing. This is what we need. This is what our ancestors' way have lived by, the Spirit and the power of the Spirit. It's the same thing, they said. It is the truth. Some that became Baha'is right there. They said, I believe this. I want to join the Baha'i Faith. I want to help out with this mission. And I remember visiting one of my great uncle who lived in Klagetoh, and he said in Navajo, "Di khanet a nini at ajoba khane oyate ta ne ado basianan ta hibe khane do le lukiyat e chuno ye ha zi bebenashni le e khato olget ado basianan ta." What does that mean in our language? How do you translate it into English? The way I translate it to be, this message must be delivered in a beauty way, in a loving way, without shame, without holding back. It must be told to all the peoples. This is what he meant. The whole mission of the Baha'i Faith is to bring people together in unity, in love and peace, tranquility. That is the mission of the Baha'i Faith. And those of you who are Baha'is who are here, I know you are working individually and collectively in your communities to promote this new revelation that has been given to us in all the humanity of the world, to all the hearts of the humanity.
We have some special visitors with us, and I'd like to acknowledge their presence. First, we have Mr. Ernest Hubble from our chapter, chapter president. We have Kabe Shahidi. He's the auxiliary board member for protection. We have Sandy, auxiliary board for propagation. Most important visitor who takes care of continents. The United States, Alaska, Canada, South America, all the way. Wherever he's needed throughout the world, he is there. And he is here with us, Counselor Naveed Serrano. And we have 5 representatives from the Regional Baha'i Council for the Southwest. Would they each stand? Fred White. Anyone else here? Farhad. Hayam. And Randy Dobbs. Who are you? And of course, our own Jerry. we have a very special gift from the National Spiritual Assembly. The National Spiritual Assembly loves and supports the Native Friends. They are one of our champions, and one of our greatest champion is here, Erica Toussaint.
At the heart of all the people is the language of the heart, the language of love. So my first privilege is to bring to you the love of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States, who sent not a written message, but a person message. They knew that I would do my best to personify the love of the National Spiritual Assembly for all of you. We just heard this wonderful story that Chester told us about the background of this first gathering 50 years ago. I was reflecting on the story that you told us before you talked about the council fire, about the way you wove together the experience of the Indian peoples and the experience of Baha'u'llah. The imprisonment, the banishment, the unjust and cruel treatment by people who didn't understand and who thought that their way was the right way. The parallel between those two was obviously clear to Franklin and to Chester. You made that connection in those days. And the way you tell the story helps me understand the connection now. I was thinking also about how, when he was telling us about what struck him as he was studying the Baha'i teachings, these twin manifestations came to a world where, at least in this nation, we know of other holy twins who brought a message and who told us to watch for the next. So these early people in any nation who recognize the truth, they have great courage and great hearts and great ability to recognize and to see. And I was also thinking about how he reminded us that when the first people came to the shores of this country, the native people welcomed them. And then they were betrayed. In 1962, when that council fire was planned, you didn't know that 1,000 or more people would be coming, and that they would be from all of the tribes of the world. The black, the red, the yellow, the pink, the tan, all the colors, all the people, many of whom had come to this country to escape oppression. And some had been enslaved and brought to this country. But those that arrived here at Pine Springs were welcomed by the native peoples here. And it looks to me 50 years later like the people who came to them as visitors did not betray them. So the second welcome was a welcome that was received and hopefully reciprocated. In so many ways, that gathering was the first. It was the first time that we had seen a native person, actually native brothers, who arose to fulfill the responsibility in such a big way and in such a good way, to share this message that they had just embraced. They had been Baha'is for 2 months. They were in their 20s. And their family embraced the teachings. And the elders embraced the teachings because they saw the sincerity and they heard the truth and they had hearts that were receptive to that truth. So 50 years ago was really the first time in this country that we had experienced a kind of massive response to the message of Baha'u'llah. In this quiet spot, just a few miles from here, gathered together by two intrepid brothers and many people from all over this country who knew this would be important and traveled and came and camped. Now I think about what has happened in those 50 years. You know, in the desert, when you plant something, you have to take very good care of it. This is not an easy climate for things to grow. I've been watching the trees in this wind. Those trees out there, they don't get very tall. If they get too tall here, they would just be blown over. Now, the Navajo people, they get tall. But the trees here are not tall like the trees where I live. I've never dug up a pinon tree or any of these trees, but I have a feeling their roots go deep. Am I right? You can tell. Yeah. And when I watch the trees in the wind, the branches are moving, but the trunks are not moving. I've been watching all morning. These trunks, see, there's no movement in the trunk, only the branches are moving. How long does it take for a tree to sink its roots and become this strong? And how much adversity and hardship does it go through in order for those roots to go deep and for there to be all these branches that it can bear fruit? Those winds, sometimes when it's a small little sprout of a tree, it may knock it over, and that tree never grows. For others, it's very painful, but the roots go down deeper, the trunk becomes stronger, and gradually that tree learns how not to be affected by the imperfections of all of us. My feeling, as I have been a visitor, an auntie, a sister who comes occasionally to this area, is that for many of you, your roots have grown deeper and stronger. You have learned how to overlook the human foibles of all of your neighbors and friends and family. You have learned how to rise above the imperfections of other humans and to embrace them with love. One difference between 50 years ago and now is that 50 years ago, when everybody went home, and there were all these new people who had recognized the teachings of Baha'u'llah, there were a handful, 9 you said, on the whole reservation at the time, before the council fire? All right, so 9 Baha'is, some of whom had been Baha'is for 2 months, and now a much larger population of eager souls who said, I recognize this to be true. There weren't enough workers amongst us, and we didn't have a systematic way to help strengthen the knowledge and understanding of those who were newly embracing the truth of these teachings. Now, we could easily embrace large numbers here in this very receptive area. The Navajo hearts are still pure and beautiful. They're still, after all these years, open. They still can hear the truth. And now, as we share it with them, openly, lovingly, in friendship, we will be able to nurture those new souls in a good way, in a systematic way. And we have learned in those 50 years, worldwide in the Baha'i community, how important it is to nurture those children, and especially the junior youth. Everything we do really revolves around the children and the junior youth now in the Baha'i community, not just here, but everywhere, because we know that they are the future. I don't want to close before I mention my family and their love for you. Chester, you asked us, if you were alive in 1962, where were you? Because he felt alone in trying to handle this huge response that they had here. My family took about 10 years, but we came. My sister and brother-in-law came to Chinle and served here for a number of years. And my mother finally achieved her heart's desire. And at the end of her life, was able to live here for a number of years, and in fact passed while she was living here. In the early days, when the National Spiritual Assembly was first trying to figure out, what do we do to support? What we said was, we're not going to go in and say our way is the way. How can we support? And the first thing that happened was the Navajo Baha'is said, we need a place. We have to have a place. And so we worked to find this place. And with the help of the local people, we found this place. And then gradually, over the years, we helped to build and raise these buildings. The first one was a place, what do you have to do first? You have to eat. We built a little bit of a place so we could eat together and pray together. The next place that we assisted in helping to raise up. Now, we didn't come and build it. You built it. Was the Prayer Hogan. But we assisted. We said, yes, let's make sure that this happens. And then the classrooms were added, and then this shade was added, and the dormitories. Water is here, and we learned how to share the water with the community. We stumbled along the way. There were times when we made mistakes. That's the thing about humans. We want to be perfect, but we're not. Yeah. But I think the heart was always in a good place. And you can also know that we always, as an institution, are praying for you. Not just the Baha'is, but all of the Navajo people. We pray for all of the people in the United States. We pray for all of the tribal peoples here. So as we move forward and look to the next 50 years, let's take the best from that event. Let's take the love. Let's take the friendship. Let's take the spirit of learning. We didn't know what we were doing. Chester said, he and Franklin were scared to death. What do? All these people are showing up. But we figured it out, didn't we? We figured out how to do it then. We're going to figure it out how to do now. So let's move forward and let's draw on the strength of the 50 years that has gone since that time. Let's draw on those strong roots. Let's draw on the roots of love, of forgiveness, of overlooking the faults of others, of never criticizing but only encouraging, on seeing the beauty way as the way. You know, one of the names of Baha'u'llah is the ancient beauty. The ancient beauty. And whenever I come here, that's the name of Baha'u'llah that resonates in my heart. And he said, the ancient beauty hath consented to be bound in chains, that all mankind may be released from its bondage. That's what we want to do.
And I've been a Baha'i for a long time. Go through the whole Baha'i, the whole Ruhi sequence. The first time I went through it too fast. I just went to 1 to 7 and then, pick things up. I didn't do the practices. Didn't do the home visits until I came to Nabi. I did tons of home visits at Nabi, and took the animator class and everything, so it's a lot of fun, but it's hard work, but it's fun too, And the junior youth animator class, I love that class because I am training my kids to be leaders of my tribe, because I want them to know all the virtues. I want them to know how to pray. I want them to know how to critically think with their brain. So if somebody's feeding them a line, they know it because it doesn't drink true in their heart. There's a lot of charlatans in this world. And you have to have a pure heart to know, to protect yourself with your purity and your innocence. And I want this for my kids. It's the love of Baha'u'llah, and he stands behind you. He really stands behind you all the time. All you have to do is pray to him, and it will be so. It's like they say, you know, you join the letters B and E together, and it will be. That's all you have to do.
I remember when I became a Baha'i in San Jose, 1963, the end of the year. That's when my brother came, brought the message to me. So I'm very thankful for my brother coming out to tell me about the faith. Through the families of the Baha'i community over there, and they were strangers to me, just like Chester has been talking about, very strange people. And at the time, I had just had my second baby, and that was with my son Matthew. And my son Matthew happened to be very sick. My son didn't come home with me for 6 months after he was born. But through the Baha'i families that I know over there, they tremendously helped me because I didn't have anyone there. It's just my husband and myself. And all my families were back over here. And through Natalie Owen, she was a lady that really, truly a Baha'i that helped me. And she took me to the hospital. We had just one vehicle at the time. And she just always was there for me, you know. And she was the most beautiful families there that I come to know. And they were just tremendously very helpful, very kind, very true, like from their heart, just like all the Baha'is around the world. And that's how I've come to find out that's how they are, you know.
Listen to the voice that makes our hearts rejoice. Its first counsel is this: possess a pure heart, a kindly heart, a radiant heart. Listen to the voice that makes our hearts rejoice. Its first counsel is this: possess a pure heart, a kindly heart, a radiant heart.
Recognition of those present 50 years ago. And I have a beautiful, beautiful brother here who was there 50 years ago. We were just within our 20s. The last time I saw him was about a couple of months ago on Apache Reservation. He invited me to go over there to help give a fireside. And he's been working with that tribe for many, many years. I think he's the only one that's been visiting that community for San Carlos Apache Reservation. Before that, 2 years ago, was it? 2 years ago, when Franklin and I and John Cook were invited to Flagstaff Macy Coffee Shop. How many of you have been there? Wow, lots of people. Anyway, my brother John Cook, and I'm sure most of you know him. He's a good singer. He's been singing all these years for us, and then a great, great Baha'i teacher.
He asked me to talk about Pine Springs in 1962. That changed my entire life. I had become a Baha'i, and I had befriended some native boys who kind of hung out at the Indian Center in Los Angeles. And so I heard about the gathering that was going to take place at Pine Springs. I drove all the way to Pine Springs And here was this Persian man standing on this stage that they had erected, and the log house, I think, is very much the same. And here was this man and his wonderful brother. And it just affected my whole life, because the people in that village, it seemed to me at the time that they all became Baha'is. Next year was the World Congress, of course, in London. And to see Chester and his brother and their wives in London was something I will never forget. I wanted to tell you about Franklin, because at the fireside that he and his brother gave at Macy's, he was not supposed to speak. So he got up and said a few words, and 45 minutes later, he was like Mr. Sears. 45 minutes later, he was still talking. And he said, I want you to know how much I love each one of you. But that he loved everyone. Then he invited everyone there to become a Baha'i.
It's such a privilege and an honor to be able to be here with all of you and to commemorate really this very special day, and 50 years ago, the council fire that took place in Pine Springs. And at that particular gathering, there were hands of the cause present, and our institution, the institution of the counselors, carries on the work of the hands of the cause. The coming of Abdu'l-Baha to the shores of America was very important. And I think it was through Abdu'l-Baha's visit to America that he was then inspired to recognize the glorious destiny of the indigenous peoples of the Americas. And it was Abdu'l-Baha who a few years later, upon returning to the Holy Land, wrote in his Tablets of the Divine Plan of the glorious destiny of the indigenous people. And I know you're all familiar with the words of Abdu'l-Baha. But he said, attach great importance to the indigenous population of America. Should they be educated and guided, there can be no doubt that they will become so illumined as to enlighten the whole world. So it's interesting that 100 years ago is when Abdu'l-Baha came and set foot on this continent. Then 50 years later is when that fire that we were describing earlier came to Navajo land. Of course, it had come a few years before, but perhaps maybe symbolically the council fire maybe is the igniting of that fire in a sense. And one of the chapters that's interesting too in this whole story is that just 1 year later, in 1963, was the election of the Universal House of Justice, which is an important historical event, not just for the faith, but for all of humanity, because this is an institution created by Baha'u'llah to ensure the safety, the well-being, the redemption of all of mankind. This is an institution whose very name, the Universal House of Justice, is to ensure the eradication of all oppression on earth. And it's interesting, a connection then to the fact that one of the people that was at this council fire in 1962 was Amos Gibson, who was a member of that first Universal House of Justice. So somehow these 50 years have been a process of just laying a foundation for this process little by little to grow. And I think we have some fruits to reflect on, and I think that's what we're going to do tonight. And I think we can think about, maybe, what is the meaning of this education? What instrumentalities do we have today that we didn't have 50 years ago, that we definitely didn't have 100 years ago, that maybe now we can begin to think, I think as Lorentha was saying, to ensure that there is a hope, that this redemption of all of the peoples of the earth, particularly maybe the peoples that reside in this sacred land, how now maybe we have instrumentalities that can make this a reality. Somehow Abdu'l-Baha hinted at this when he said that it's a process of education. And the Institute process in the end is about education. But it's a very special kind of education because it has to do with the transformation of the heart.
I would like to ask my aunt Alice Ballou to say a few words. Her husband, his name was John Ballou. He was one of the Navajo leaders, our leader at that time. Oak Springs, what we call chapter, Oak Spring chapter, that includes the Pine Springs community. And he was our councilman, and he came to our gathering 50 years ago over there, and he gave us talks and teachings and so forth, and he was one of the persons that said, this is the truth, what we are hearing. And what is going on here at Pine Springs from the Baha'is. We've walked these paths, the spirit paths, this beauty way path for hundreds of years. So here is Alice Ballou, John Ballou's wife.
Yad Arnold Sada Bessie. Nzade Hedam Zade Hill de Belagana dan Lontashi had ishi dan Lonko. Ako ye at say about this scene. Alice Ballou edasijuneko. Adorme eya kinke chini dotra pangabashun chin dasijune. Ashi edan nal dasijune. Kia anedan che dasijune. Kut asanin jilesha alchene. Ako.
Anniversary dates, then, are more than just marking the accumulation of the years. Counting the time we've had together becomes the expression of real gratitude for what we have received. To mark these anniversaries, to count these years, is to count our blessings. And I have a list of blessings to share with you. So this is talking about the indigenous people that live in this region and the victories that have been earned in the last 50 years since the first Great Council Fire. Many results of what started here 50 years ago, the growth of the faith in Navajo and Hopi lands. Baha'is reside in about 2/3 of all the communities that are here. Hundreds are now engaged in service. Thousands have become believers over the years. Currently, regular core activities take place in over 20 communities. They provide children's classes, junior youth groups, study circles, devotional gatherings. Many hundreds of friends and friends of the faith have been trained in the Institute process. This cluster alone, the Fort Defiance cluster, was one of the first clusters to have an intensive program of growth in the Western region. By objective comparison with all other clusters with intensive programs of growth in the Southwestern region over the past 2 years, the Regional Baha'i Council data shows that this cluster ranks number 1 in the Southwestern region in terms of making progress in growth. Then in terms of outreach, considerable outreach has been spawned here over the years. It kind of started with a visit by Amatul Baha Ruhiya Khanum's visit and address to the Navajo Tribal Council over 50 years ago. Now, visits to local chapter leaders and tribal officers have become quite common. Home visits abound. Many of you and others have been on travel teaching teams. You visited innumerable Indian nations throughout the Americas, from the tips of Alaska and Canada down to the southernmost parts of South America from east to west, from north to south over the years, which has helped those tribes advance the faith. You have sent travel teaching teams abroad to China, to Scandinavia, to Russia, to Siberia, to Mongolia. And you have sent pioneers to the Caribbean and to Belize. In terms of lives of service, you have provided many volunteers, many pioneers, many assembly members, many staff of the National Spiritual Assembly, its agencies, and here at Nabi. At least 4 Navajo volunteers have served at the Baha'i World Center. 3 have served as local board members of the Auxiliary Board. 3 have served in the National Spiritual Assembly. 1 has served in the Universal House of Justice. And most importantly, daily service by each of you to your families, to your neighbors, and to your community. What a better world we have because of all of your service. So on behalf of the Regional Baha'i Council of the Southwestern States, I want to congratulate you all and let you know how proud we are to share this moment of time with you.
My name is the Message of the Justice Nurturer, Payamat Parvar. My father was the Light of God, the Justice Nurturer, Ziaullah at Parvar. He was born in the city of love abounding, Ishqabad. He grew up on the steps of the house of worship, the first house of worship. Neither that house of worship nor my father currently exist in this plane. When he was 20 years old, he pioneered, on the request of the guardian to the Iranian nation, to the Iranian Baha'is, to go pioneering to the Arabian countries. And he went there before he was an adult, at the age of 20. I grew up in the Arab countries. At about the time that you had your council fire, I watched, I think, my first Western that I actually recognized what was going on. And Cowboys and Indians. And after the movie was over, I went and found a toy and I was pretending it was a gun and I was running around and shooting. And my father, somewhat distressed, asked me to come and sit with him. I was a 4-year-old kid. Sit? I wanted to play. He said, no, you need to come and sit and you need to listen. And he said, you live in an Arab nation. And he said, Abdul Baha told us that by the light of Muhammad, the word of Muhammad, the Arab nation was able to enlighten the world with the educational system that it produced. And then he looked at me and he said, the Native Americans, Abdul Baha has told us, can enlighten the world in much the same way. He didn't say the cowboys could do it. Now which do you want to be? And from that day on, I have wanted to be like you.
Since the first council fire, there has been so much activity in the Baha'i world. And now we have the training institute process. So if you're doing a study circle, if you have a junior youth group, if you're hosting a children's class or doing a children's class or a devotional, you can write that in here. And home visits, if you are visiting your friends and relatives to teach them the faith, write that in.
Symbolic that there's a road ahead just a few yards away from here as we speak, and going to where? Civic leaders are realizing, albeit lately, that Baha'u'llah has been working all along to bring water to this area and to bring roads and education and the other kind of things that we want for our children and our families.
It really, really touched my heart. That something amazing, special. That's why I'm Baha'i today, is because they encouraged me. The happy way of being Baha'i. I just want to thank my dad. My dad's Glenn. Call her my mom. Thank you, Mom.
My name is Alfred Khan Jr. I am people of the Middlewater. I'm born for Batani Senjikini. And I wanted to remember someone special, not from our tribe, but I learned a great deal from her, Elizabeth Dahi. And something was mentioned earlier, and I realized there's a certain something that I learned from her. It's about what happens when somebody comes in front of you and asks about the faith, and Elizabeth Dahi would open her heart, and you just saw pure love. And I think, I don't remember anything but teaching with her. Every minute was sharing the faith and sacrificing and sharing love with people, because it's a natural state. When your heart is connected with Baha'u'llah, you naturally want to teach. It's in the Navajo way. We don't separate prayer from our life. Our life is a prayer. We walk in beauty, and everything becomes a prayer. This is our time to bring our heart closer to Baha'u'llah for each of us. This is not just looking back. This is our time for something new. What are we going to remember this gathering for? And the seeds that are planted here, I'm remembering Irene Khan as well, an administrator, and we saw a seed that was planted by Irene Khan with the work she did with Shannon, and that seed, we're seeing the blossoms of that right now. So I also want to recognize the Oronas for the work they did, and the sacrifice. You guys can tell me how hard it is to be an administrator. It's not easy, right? Each of us has the power of love, that we can spend time with someone, really connect their heart, and love these people. So as we remember these people, let's go back and connect with these people, because they're one step away. And it's our opportunity to love them and rejoin these connections. And we're recognizing the fruit that those people had sacrificed their lives for. Marion was administrator for a while. Helen Kiley, Jeff and Helen Kiley.
I really appreciate everybody here. You're like the hardcore council fire people still sticking around on the last day, and thank you for being patient and you showing that you love and you care for our land and our people. It's really, really beautiful. And thank you for my family, my direct family, my blood are here. That's good. Yeah. I'm very proud of where I come from, just like my dad. Don't forget us, and we shouldn't just have this every 50 years, every 25 years. We should have this annually. That would be nice, and just get everybody together. And
this great Navajo Nation has its best and greatest gift is its offspring. Look at them. Look at them. Now we have to spread this gift to all of the children of this nation. I would hope that long before 50 years, we have seen that every child and junior youth in this Navajo Nation has had access to spiritual education and spiritual empowerment for the junior youth. This will solve the problems that we're worried about.
My memories of, I was an assistant to Nancy Phillips way back when she was the auxiliary board member, and to this day, Jeff Kiley calls her the most dangerous woman in tennis shoes. When she put on those tennis shoes and went out here, she just was a force to be reckoned with. She was just so powerful. I really enjoyed working with her. And the other person that I thought was equally powerful was when I was working for Angelica Huerta. She came out here for the Pioneer Institute when we honored the pioneers. And I'll never forget her appearance when she walked into the big Hogan, you know, she was a joy to work with, absolute joy.
I'm so happy to be able to share a few more words with you on this very beautiful occasion. The very beginning, it happened in the living room of my parents in Camp Verde, Arizona, on the Gimlin Ranch. And I had a nice visit with Mary Jane Gone this afternoon, and she verified it for me. California, several years before that, when Dr. William Thomas Bidwell, who was a well-known Baha'i and a doctor, visited my husband, David Villasenor, and I, for the very first time on a trip west at our little apartment off Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. My parents were visiting at that time from the ranch in Washington, where they had been living for 40 years, and all of us were born and grew up. From the middle of the afternoon until the wee hours, Dr. Bidwell told us of the faith. And my parents immediately recognized that the message of Baha'u'llah was true. And I feel privileged to be here this evening to share this with you. That evening again, around the campfires, there was a coming together of all the native peoples, and they came from the east, they came from the west. It was a converging of people that could not have happened unless the concourse on high had picked up all of these energies from all the people who were gathering from all the places, and the excitement. And it was like spontaneous combustion. It was the most dramatic, the most energetic, the most dynamic, and the spirit was the greatest of any that I have ever attended.
Isabel It's been a while since I've been saying this. Are my che, and my nullies are mini goats. Anyway, I'm originally from Pine Springs. I was born there, like a quarter of a mile south of Pine Springs School, or the store. And I was raised in Pine Springs. And I was also there at the first 50 years, 1962 celebration in Pine Springs for the Baha'i celebrations. And my mom, Mabel Burnside Myers, was shown in the video along with my grandfather, John Hale. My step-grandfather, that was my mother's stepfather. Anyways, they were told to dress up for that occasion, so that my mom made the velveteen outfit for him, and it fitted him really nice. And he made his hat out of beaver skin and the feathers. So he made that himself, and when he put the hat and the outfit on, he had these old boots, these working boots that sure didn't look nice on him. So my mom had to look for some moccasins to make him look nice. And I don't know how she got those moccasins, but he looked pretty neat.
I forgot to tell you this afternoon, well today, 6 children became Baha'is, and two adults became Baha'is at noontime.
I became Baha'i not too long ago, not even a year yet. But I've been coming here way back 19 when these guys were working on the building, They never invite me to come over here and be Baha'i. And I didn't even know how to become a Baha'i. So until this one lady, she came up to me and said, "John, come here." Yes, what do you want? I said, "Why don't you become a Baha'i? And how do I go about being Baha'i? Come on." He said, "Yeah, I like you. Okay, I'll become a Baha'i. Okay." And right away she filled out some papers for me and a little card came up. And that's how I became Baha'i not too long ago. It's not a year yet and I'm very happy with it. I like it.
Shannon Golden, she had since the carbon shlong. No, no, she was just chain. Boy, cleaning the chain. Nagaki nationale and Twitty little date nasha. My name is Shannon Golden. My parents are James and Jenny. I'm clan tree born for Zuni clan. Water flows together are my maternal, and one who walks around is my paternal. And I'm from here in Burtwater, up the hill. And I've been coming here since I was a little girl. And Roseanne was my teacher. And we did a lot of children activities, and then as a youth we come out here too. We're part of the Time Waivers thing in Gallup, and then I went off to college and I came back, and like Joel says, we come out over here every Thursday for community dinners or whenever there's gatherings here. And I really enjoy it, and it's been a long time. I know I wanted to do this a long time ago, but I finally decided to do it today, and just happy to
Coming out here to Paul, when he was a young man, he built that Hogan over there, our church Hogan, and Hogan over there. So I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Paul Yellow Horse.
Well, hey, hello, everybody. I want to come a long way, come down here. And I come down, the first time I come down here in 1980 something. And that time, Chester Khan was take care of this place. And I asked for a job, then they give me a job. Then we start building this place. We built that, there's a little house down here, we built that one. And then he wants to build a Hogan. I learned a lot of things from Baha'i. And then I want to become, I listen to the people, he comes a long ways, come down here. And then we're not all the same. Some of them, they read Baha'i, there's a lot of things, they learn it from Baha'i. And then I want to be Baha'i, so I told Chester, I want to be Baha'i. And then I'll come Baha'i, and then my oldest son, later on, he come a Baha'i. And then my wife, they told me, Baha'i told me, don't push the people in there. Even your kids, even your wife. They had to decide their own way. If they want to Baha'i, they become Baha'i, said. That's what they told me. The way I think about it, the way I believe Baha'i is a good way of life. It's the way I understand. Now my age is close to 100. I hope my age gonna be 100 maybe. That's hopeful. And I guarantee, but hope, pray. That's the number one. Pray with your kids.
We'll have the reports from the groups, the 5 groups, about the 2 questions that I've asked to talk about. And And what did you come up with?
My name is Irene Baldwin, and I come from La Pinta Mesa, over that hill over here to the west. And I've been a Baha'i for about 6-7 years now. And we recently started our Wide Room LSA, and I'm the president for that. Everybody says, what do you think about this 50-year with Pine Spring? We've gone a long ways to build ourselves. And it's good because we got more people involved with Baha'i. And we are, me and Lori for Wide Rooms. It was just me, then I picked Lori, and then we got to be a team, and we went around home visiting, and we also had a driver. Our driver is Bijan. He drove us around, and we went home visiting, touched a lot of hearts, and we're still searching. We are searching for young kids. And like I told my group, I said we have a lot, on the Navajo reservation, we have a lot of alcoholism, drug, and gang. And we want to try to touch their hearts so they won't be in those. And to start them off when they're young, saying no, Tota, don't use those, and become, someone. Become a doctor, become a lawyer, do something with your life. So we're trying to get to all these young kids out there, and also the parents and the grandparents. We go around to homes, and a lot of them ask us, when are you coming back to see us? And so we're on Bijan's time because we have to call him and tell us, can you haul us to, me and Lori, to someone's home to do a devotion? And a lot of them like the Baha'i prayers. And that's how we won their hearts, I guess, because they said, why are you so happy? Why are you two so happy? I said, because we're Baha'is. We have the love, the peace, the unity. So we go out and talk to these people, and they say, yes, we want to become Baha'i. We want to be like you.
I live probably about 6 miles from here, and me and Irene are a team. When I'm not with Irene, people, my Baha'i brothers and sisters, they always ask me, where's Irene? I guess we're like peas and carrots in a pot. Anyway, we go out and we do home visiting on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Bijan. Bijan is our driver. And then we do our study circles together at my house. We try to invite other people, like my cousin's sister. She declared to become a Baha'i too, but most of the time she has livestock and she works with her animals and don't have time to come visit. But we've been studying the Ruhi books, and we finished book 1, 2, and 3, and we're on 4, and we're almost done with 4. And Baha'i law said, go out and serve the Lord, so that's what we're doing. We arise and we decided to go serve, and we do home visiting. Oh, is it too loud? We go home visiting, and then we also do devotional with people. They always call us and say, when are you guys coming out? Or they say, I'm sick, I don't feel good, can you come pray for me? So we go out and we do that. And then on Thursday, when we have our community dinner here, me and Irene, we go to the classroom and we teach little kids. And I really enjoy it. Like Irene said, we're always happy, and people are always happy to see us.